Today on Gun Talk Hunt, we've got Mia Anstine and Leah Leggett talking about the recent bill struck down that would have banned Colorado mountain lion, bobcat, and lynx hunting. All right, welcome in Gun Talk Hunt fans. I'm your host, KJ, and special guests this week, two of them, which I am fortunate to have two of Colorado's finest on the show, and my elk guide, Mia Anstine and Leah. And before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and say it because this Gun Talk Hunt is brought to you by Hodgdon Powders, the gunpowder people, Timney Triggers, the world's finest triggers, Silencer Central, silence delivered, Smith & Wesson, and Brownells, serious about firearms since 1939. And with that, we are going right into the show, and we're talking conservation and why it matters when people show up. And Mia, I'll let you guys kind of outline it, and then we'll just dive in from there.
Okay. What we've done this past week is we've been traveling up to the Capitol up in Denver to stand up against an anti-hunting bill. And basically the bill was it was the Senate bill this in 22 and 1033.
It is, yes, I believe it is 1033.
Bills. And I tell you, I have so many bills because there's a lot this year, but this one was to ban lion, bobcat, and lynx hunting. And I'm not even sure why they put lynx on there because we already cannot hunt lynx in Colorado.
Right.
But ultimately, this bill is really, truly an umbrella against hunting and agriculture, not just those fur bearer animals that they had listed.
And it's I think it's 31. SB 2231, but you're monitoring everything, which is actually really cool. And what a lot of folks don't really get is that the people who are forming these bills and this legislation are masking them. And just because, and it's very frustrating because a lot of people don't read into the legislation. They'll pick one thing out of it that adheres to most people, and they're really good at masking all this. Right.
There's one that's coming up, and it's labeled as a good climate bill. And basically we all want good climate. We're all about, good habitat and climate, everything like that. But this climate bill would actually create a board that would oversee our wildlife commission in Colorado. So underneath all of that is it's anti-hunting and anti-agriculture, because we have to look at the cattleman aspect of it as well. And they're always, putting false messaging out about hunting. Leah it was her first trip to the Capitol. And just to kind of back up a little bit, we live in Southwest Colorado. We live over 6 hours away from Denver. So this year, this was short notice. We were all poised and ready to go because we knew this hearing was coming up. We had written letters. We are both members of lots of conservation organizations, but I'm a regional representative for SCI, for the Colorado chapters. Leah is on the Four Corners chapter board. She's their secretary. We also had members from the Denver chapter and the Colorado chapter, and we all had planned to go to the Capitol. With SCI, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, and a lot of other organizations, we had sent calls to action for people to email their legislators. And something that I want to tell you guys is, if you're using these calls to action, that's great. A lot of people are saying don't do this because the legislators get this mass email. When you do it, personalize the subject line. If it's your state and your legislator, put in there from your constituent and what you want them to oppose or support this bill, and put the bill number, but always from your constituent or from a Coloradoan. If you, in your state, use your state, but right. That's how to address the email to get their attention, whether it's them or their aide that's reading it. And so all the organizations, we had been doing the call to action, which was received greatly. Actually, 3 of the bill proponents took their names off the bill in support. So that was great news.
Oh.
When we went to Denver, there was only one, the lead. She had her name on it because she couldn't remove that until it went through committee. So stuff that really works, but inside the letter, write your personal story and your feelings, why you support it or why you oppose it, because those personal stories really matter. And then, of course, on the day of, we drove through blizzards, snowdrifts, snowstorms. Our whole family went. We took turns driving, and Leah got to experience that. So, I mean, you might want to tell your story about that.
I was going to ask if Leah could share her story, since, I mean, that's quite an undertaking to drive 6 hours through a blizzard and everything else to go support something. And I mean, a lot of people won't do it when it's 65 degrees out and sunny. So walk me through that, Leah.
It was definitely quite the experience. I was super nervous. I was actually supposed to be working, and I got a call that I didn't need to go. And I was like, called my mom when I was on my way home. I was flying from another job home, and I was like, sign me up to testify. I'll go. Like, this is just something I need to do. Like, everything happens for a reason, and that is how it happened. And so I was super nervous. And once we got there, like, it was freezing cold. I mean, I drove where you couldn't even see the lines on the road, much less anyone in front of you. And I was so mad because I was like, we should have left super early. And it was getting dark. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And I was like, hoping that it would be worth it in the end. Because I was like, this drive is, that was enough in its own. Like, we're turning around. But I was like, no. We got to keep going. Like, we're doing this for a bigger purpose. And
we got messages from a lot of other people from this corner of the state. So Leah grew up, she's a trapper. Like, yes, she's a hunter. She is archery hunter, big game, everything, but she's a trapper, and she traps every year since she was very young. She's been a trapper. And so that's why she said it's near and dear to her heart, because the bobcat thing. She got her first lion last year, so she's pretty stoked about that. She's seen what they do to the cattle, to our friends' dogs, our friends' horses. Actually, one of our horses that you met, Pepperoni, he got ran off a cliff with a herd of horses, and he's one of the only 2 horses that survived that. And when the Game and Fish investigated that, they found it was a pack of mountain lions, which they never used to run that way. Individual. But so she's got to experience all of that. And that's why it was so near and dear to her heart. But other people in our area, because of the weather, canceled. So we were like, we have got to go. Like, we have to show. There's only 10 people there. We will be there.
Well, Leah, talk a little bit about testifying, because I think that's what gets a lot of people. There's a lot of folks that may show up, but testifying is on a whole new level. And this was your first time going anyway. So what was that like?
Yeah, it was, like I said, I was so nervous, and the crowd, there were like 150 people there. And we had talked about, there were only about 3 people that were in their 20s that were there. There were some small as well, but to be like one of the few young voices that are just now becoming to voting age, like all of that kind of stuff, like, it really impacted me. And I was like, kind of hoping I wouldn't have to testify. But then once it came, I was like, I need to do it. I need to speak up. And there's another girl my age that spoke on behalf of the young hunters. And I wanted to make my point, not just for young sportsmen and women, but as well as cattlemen and women. I'm a super big advocate for both sides of that. So I wanted to make it clear that young people are important. Our future generations of sportsmen and women are important, as well as our cattlemen and women. So I was like super shaky in my seat, and I was oh my gosh, like, they're gonna like stare down at me. And once I like finally just started rolling with what I was saying, I mean, I had my speech in front of me and was still super shaky, but I just like read through it, got through it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm done. Like, I made it through. I didn't die, I didn't like pass out or anything. And I felt so much better after I did it. Like, I was like, I just defeated that, because I'm not good at public speaking, and I've always been so nervous to like do even an interview like this. I'm like, Oh, what are they gonna?
I'm gonna ask really hard questions. I just just ask Mia. Like I'm ruthless.
So I just wanted to like defeat that like huge mountain in front of me of like, it's okay to speak up. It's okay to talk to someone one-on-one through Zoom. I mean, this was my second time to testify. My first one was through Zoom. So
Okay.
to me, okay, like
With the
I'm going to
commission.
set you over here. I testified on the trapping ban bill in March of last year. And I talked about our ranch, how trapping has affected my 4-H friends, FFA, me personally with our ducks and geese and everything like that. And so the mountain lion bill is just part of that. And I didn't want to be, it's just mountain lion or it's just trapping, but it's like there's a bigger aspect to this of like, we're managing these animals for a reason. We're not trophy hunting them. And as my friend Naomi Yates said when she testified, that anything's a trophy. I mean, even your experience elk hunting down here, that's a trophy. And, you know, your first rabbit, your first duck, I mean, anything's a trophy. So to see all that come together and what people say, it was amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing, especially, I mean, how young you are. But right after this break, I'm going to step in here real quick and take a break, but I'm going to give you a little bit background on Leah that you may not know. Silencer Central. Do you know you can get a silencer delivered to your house? Well, guess what? I have been approved and it is on its way. I filled out my Form 4473 and they should be shipping it right to my door. Now, how did I do that? Well, it was easy. Silencer Central sent me all the forms and everything that I needed to fill out. I sent them a selfie of myself via phone, and I even did the fingerprints all by myself. Well, if I can do it, so can you. And it's easily done with Silencer Central. And guess what? They've got new e-forms, so you don't have to wait almost a year just like I did. You can wait almost 90 days. So for more information, visit silencercentral.com. And Timney Triggers, you know, they have been in business for a little over 75 years. That's kind of a big deal because they are one of the original aftermarket triggers, and you can do it from the comfort of your kitchen table. You do not have to be a gunsmith. And again, this is one of those things that I can do, and so can you. So sometimes I play a gunsmith, but I'm really not one. But they have a new Alpha Competition Smith & Wesson M&P trigger and is compatible with M&P Gen 1s and M2.0s. It's got a 3-pound pull weight, straight aluminum trigger shoe, NP3 coated sear, and safety plunger. As always, it is easy to install. So visit timneytriggers.com. All right, we're back. We're talking with Mia and Leah out of Colorado, and we're talking about how they recently stepped up, and they stepped up big for conservation for cattlemen. But I kind of teased it right before this, but what a lot of you don't know is Leah is probably one of the premier rodeo photogs, and her imagery on capturing the moment of the rodeo is absolutely unbelievable. And that's just one of the things you do. How'd you get into that?
Well, I was a contestant when I was younger, around, I don't know, 8 or 9. I competed myself in barrels. And
she also started photographing when she was like 6 or 7. She took pictures.
And she is very talented.
Yeah. And
she doesn't like to brag about herself. I can already see it.
No, but then I used to compete, and then in my senior year of high school, I had a back injury to where I couldn't end up I lost feeling from the waist down for I had to use a walker and stuff for 6 months to a year to figure out, get that strength back. It affected my hunting, everything. And once I lost that ability to where they're like, if you fall, you could be paralyzed. And that was like, well, I want to find a new way to still be involved in rodeo and, the hunting. And that's when I really fell super deep into the photography. And I ended up just finding local rodeos and going and meeting all these contestants, lifelong friends. And I still work with the most of the photographers that I've interned with over the years and have just been growing from there. That's where I've been traveling most of the year already.
Right.
I haven't even been home more than a day until this week.
Until you started going and testifying before the state. Well, talk about the importance. And Leah, maybe this is a question for both of you guys because both of you are young, but what's the importance of getting younger people involved in the conservation efforts and understanding that, we're not just hunters, we're not just conservationists, but we need to stand up for bills that are out there?
Can I answer first? Or can you answer? It's super, well, I mean, because I testify like with the DC project, I've been active for a number of years and trying to get people going. What got me going was the fact that when I showed up, there was nobody there. There were like 8 or 9 of us. And that was when I was, well, if no one else speaks up, I have to speak up. And I was terrified also how she was the first time. The GOP had me at a press conference on Capitol Hill for the universal background check. And I was terrified.
Oh, man.
But then, like she said, you survive. Like, it's not that bad. And, they're just people too. So it's okay. And it's okay. It's okay if you're scared too, because then you're authentic, you're real. You're not someone who's been paid a bunch of money to go and say something. And quite frankly, that's what we have as the opposition.
Right.
They're paid to go and say what they need to say. They have a lot of research. They have a lot of planning, preparation. They pay their travel, everything.
Right.
To get the younger people, the thing is, a lot of younger people, they're just worried about getting, finishing college, getting their degrees, getting going in their lives, managing their new jobs, which she is too. And they're like, I don't care about legislation, but the problem is it's disappearing so quickly. And right now we've got this scattergun effect from anti-gun and anti-hunters, and they're just, and whatever's going to stick is going to stick. So that's why I was telling you, like, I have so many bill numbers, whether it's a House bill or Senate bill, like running through my head, because there's a lot in just this year. And hopefully other people will pay attention to their state, because it's going to be lost for them. And that's why they need to pay attention. So
you're not going to just say ditto, are you?
Clarify, but don't say ditto.
What you said.
I think that's what I try to share, even through my social media. I mean, that's huge nowadays with my age people and younger, is that it's okay to be scared. It's okay to feel those nerves. It's okay to not know what to do. But I want to bring people together and show, like, I'm doing it and so can you, and it's okay, and like, not to be scared of anything. And it is like, if it's even as much as an email, I mean, that's what I want to try to share with people through all of that. That's like, it's easy enough to just send an email if you can't go, or, if you can go, even better. And if you can bring a friend, I know a lot of people don't want to go alone. And
right.
I think a lot of people should know is you won't be alone. I mean, we thought maybe 10 people would be there, and there were 150 maybe people there. And so you're not ever alone going to speak up for your hunting rights. And so I think people my age should just, if they're passionate about it, they should go for it, because there aren't a lot of you, and it's going to feel really good once you just take that leap. I know it's like, I'm still nervous about it, even thinking of when I'll testify or anything like that. But it feels so much better to be like, okay, I am helping make that difference for my generation and generations to come.
And I don't think any of us could have said it any better, but I'm going to jump in here with a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what's better, to show up, to email, or call. Hodgdon Powder Company. They have a passion for allowing you to make your own ammo, and it's through the Reloading Data Center. So Hodgdon Reloading Data Center, what you do, it's really cool, and I'm getting into this, so I am a newbie when it comes to reloading, but this site is so important to me because it basically gives me a recipe for any load that I want, whether I'm using Varget or any other H4350, all those great powders that Hodgdon produces. You can have the formula and the recipe to develop your own load, and you're going to stay within the correct tolerances. All you got to do is visit HodgdonReloading.com to learn more. And Brownells, serious about firearms since 1939, and firearms, yes, absolutely. And did you also know that they make optics? Well, I shot one at SHOT Show Range Day, and it was actually pretty cool because it's their new match precision optic with illuminated donut reticle. It's not something that you can eat, but it's sure something you can see through and hit your targets every time. It's a 1:6 by 24, and it's an uncluttered reticle. And what do I mean by that? Well, there's a lot of reticles out there that have dash marks all over the scope. Well, this one it's a donut. It looks like a donut, and so it's an unobstructed view of just a clear sight picture. So the new MPO Match Precision Optic Donut Reticle allows your eye to naturally place the target in the center. Very easily done. And it is assembled for Brownells in Japan, so it's high-end glass here. But to learn more, visit brownells.com. Okay, we're back here. We're back at it, and I kind of teased it, but obviously I believe showing up would be the best, because then you show your numbers and you show everything else. But Mia, if people can't show up, what would be better for them to do? Is it to, call directly and to speak to, a page or an intern or anything like that? Or is it email?
I would say try to do all of them, but email obviously is the easiest. It's right. You can start the email, you can think about it, you can come back and adjust your draft or whatever, or you can do one of those action alerts and press the button and send it. As I said, try to personalize it a little bit before you just send. But if you can't appear in person, you can also sign up to testify online. And that's something, because of COVID, it's something we can do. And they do that in the hearing room. So it's something that is part of, we're in the hearing room and they've got the Zoom and the screens on the wall where they've got, and I don't know if it's Zoom or what program they use, but they've got it there so that people can testify. So that's always an option. If you have a snowstorm, you can't appear in person. Definitely, those legislators said that all of us being there, with the distancing, they had to limit the number of people in the room to testify. So they made an overflow room because it was under 20 degrees outside. The overflow room filled, and they had to make another overflow room. And then they adjusted the room to have more people in the room. So Leah and I could actually sit next to each other instead of 6 feet away. Right. But you meet and you make those connections, and you can plan for the future of other hearings. Right. How many of the supporters of SB 2231, how many supporters showed up? So I don't really know. I mean, we were in opposition because we obviously want to still be able to manage wildlife using hunting, trapping, and other means. But the opposition, we had already prepared, and I might back up a little bit because I mentioned that we're part of SCI, but we combined with Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation, and NWTF, a bunch of other, even Trout Unlimited combined with us. And we made a coalition, and it's the Colorado Wildlife, it's a CWCP. I would have to get you the acronym. Right. Oh, yeah. But with this organization, it's an umbrella where we came together as a force so that we could all tell them no. And so through that, we were able to get all these people together from each organization and show that we stood in solidarity against the bill. And those legislators noticed that, because to go into the hearing room, they're parking, and to get into the building, they had to walk through all of us. So they saw us, they saw how many were there. And the thing about this, KJ, is normally, like with the anti-gun bills, the moms demand the red, it's usually the opposite. They walk all these women that say guns are bad. And so what we were there is to be peaceful and happy, and we love everybody, and we love the outdoors and hunting and cattle. And I mean, there was a lot of different organizations there under that CWCP. And doing that gave the legislation a message that we're here and we're preparing for, now that that's done, we're preparing for the next, whatever it might be.
Well, and with the numbers and especially with the weather, I think that's it. And I think, I think a lot of folks are kind of tuned in to whether when we show up, whether it's for your 2A rights, whether it's for your conservation, hunting, cattle, we show up and we're very engaging and friendly and open. We're not combative.
Right.
And I think for them to walk in and see that many people who are willing to listen, who are willing to be respectful, I think that kind of throws them off a little.
Yeah, it definitely does. And we actually were prepared. You were asking about the opposition or the ones who were for that bill. We were prepared ahead of time, and we kind of visited with friends that were in the crowd and stuff, and to let them know if there are any anti-hunters that try to antagonize you or provoke you, you're going to have to stand down. You're going to have to back up, because that's something that, seen the news and the media, it's something that happens. You mentioned the one with the kid in DC that they videoed that had the MAGA hat on, and this kid had done something when really they were provoking him. Yeah. So we really didn't want that to happen. And maybe the weather prevented that. I don't know, because as hunters, we all had, our layers of good insulated gear.
Right. We got good clothing. Thank goodness. But it does go to show, and I was on some emails. So even though I'm in Louisiana, I'm, reaching out to the Colorado legislators and all that to say, look, I oppose this, and talk a little bit about that on folks that are not inside the state and how they can really help this move forward.
So basically, Colorado Parks and Wildlife is our organization that manages conservation, habitat, and wildlife in the state. That organization is funded basically through hunting and fishing licenses. And so as a non-resident hunter, you're a part of that equation. Mm-hmm. And it's one that without that equation, we won't be able to manage the wildlife and habitat. CPW isn't like this huge multi-million dollar, has money coming out their ears. It's managed. Need a penny. And so every dollar counts. As a non-resident, you are part of the finances that go into managing wildlife. And that's something with that lion bill. If you take the lion hunting away and have to pay someone else to manage the lions, where does the money go? The licenses, and then where do you get the money to pay someone else to manage them? So that's something that really a lot of the non-hunters, and I know I've talked to in other interviews before when I've been on, but the non-hunters are who we have to educate. We have to So if we have a friend, an aunt, whoever it is, visit with them and let them know how conservation is actually saving animals.
Yeah, I'm still a little upset at the reintroduction of wolves, but
that's
another conversation. Right. But no, thank you guys for joining me, and tell them where we can go learn more. Give us some sites where we can go visit you guys and stay up to tune to what you guys got going on.
Well, you can go, I mentioned the CWCP, and I'm sorry that there's so many acronyms, but the CWCP, there's actually an article about that on my website, which is miaanstine.com. So you can go check that out there, and you can find me on social media, just Mia Anstine. I'm not good with handles, and so I'm pretty creative.
Come on.
Mia Anstine it is. And Leah's got her outlets as well.
Yeah, I do a lot of promoting that side of the testifying, all of that on my social media. It's Leah, Lea_Huntress on Instagram and Facebook. I'm at Leah Leggett, and I hope that I can encourage other young sportsmen and women to follow me and encourage them to speak up in their state.
That's right. That's what we got to do. We always have to make sure we are looking out for future generations, because they need to enjoy this as well. Yeah. But all right, guys, thank you so much for joining in. This is KJ and Gun Talk Hunt. As always, keep those muzzles pointed in a safe direction, and always be on the hunt.